Dear Piloncillos, welcome to the 14th episode of the Offering Socopal podcast. This is your host, Cihua Mazatl. I thought I'd begin today's episode with a little storytelling. Ever wonder why I call you Piloncillos? Well, around COVID time, I started to really start pushing my social media and putting myself out there. At the time, I was making weekly readings where I would pull some cards for you all. This was a time when my mom still lived in San Diego and we would have a family gathering every Sunday. We would all help out in the kitchen, talk, and have fun. I remember telling my family I needed to come up with a name for my followers. I explained how brands had dedicated names and how it helped feel connected. I thought of my sweets or something along those lines. And I don't know what we were making, but my mom exclaims, "What about piloncillos?" as she pulled out a piloncillo. And it was an instant hit. My brother and I snowballed the situation and imagined scenarios in which I would have an actual piloncillo. For those that are listening and don't know what a piloncillo actually is, and you've been maybe wondering this for a while, it is Mexican raw brown sugar that is formed in like a conical shape, but the top of it is flat. So it's like a little flat cone. It's kind of what it looks like. And it's brown and sparkly. It is delicious and has a unique flavor. So, in true sibling fashion, my brother and I snowballed the situation and imagined these scenarios where it would require me to take this piloncillo on hikes and wherever I went. We went as far as imagining making tiny clothes for this piloncillo. And my mom is a tailor and she can make anything. So you can imagine how ridiculous this conversation got. I was even imagining getting hats for it. And well, we got overly excited. I love that it was a family moment. Well, the next week went by and we gathered again on Sunday. As soon as I entered through the door, my mom, who couldn't quite contain herself, just screamed, "Mira!" And she pulls out a piloncillo. She went on to say how she methodically and intentionally went through the giant mound of piloncillos at the grocery store to find just the right one. She needed me to understand that this was not any ordinary piloncillo, but the piloncillo that would carry the essence of my beloved seguidores. As piloncillo, she told me how she put many of them back and she was looking for like the right texture, the right color, quién sabe qué. She had a very selective process that she needed me to know. This was how she showed her love. So I went home that night and straight into my art studio, dug through my supply closet, and found the glitter coated plastic box I was searching for. Within it contained the perfect addition that would bring this very special piloncillo to life. Yes, googly eyes, of course. So I got my special jewelry glue, not the acrylate glue because it can melt plastic. And I wanted to keep the piloncillo's plastic as intact as I could since it was the only thing keeping it safe from the elements and the lovely ants that were often my companions in that house. And well, I glued those eyes at just the right height. Piloncillo's debut was that week during my tarot video, and I introduced the concept of calling you all piloncillos. In in the very beginning, everyone was a bit confused, but somehow warmed at the same time. The ones that didn't know what it was kept asking, "What is that brown thing she keeps showing us?" And it still cracks me up to think about that. Such a funny thing. But I started taking Piloncillo with me, traveling with me. He's been to Teotihuacan, to Oaxaca. He's been to Monte Alban. I gotta find you the pictures. And yeah, so this Piloncillo has been everywhere. Then I got caught in a personal journey and had to set aside some time to do that. And I grew a lot in between then and now. And I continue to call you all Piloncillos, and it's been sticking a lot more lately. I recently found myself out in community and had people greet me Piloncilla, and so it just made me feel really good. I'm so grateful to you all, especially if you've stuck with me and all my changes and all the changes these years. That's so special. And I think you're sweet. Our sweetness is something that often gets overpowered by all the flavors the world brings out in us, especially in these times when salt seems to be brimming our eyes like frosted crowns. It's been a while since our last plática, and I want to take a moment to share what's been on my heart. Over the past month, I've been in this space in between. I've recently returned from the annual women's retreat I host in Puerto Escondido, Oaxaca. It's a 7-day retreat, so it really takes you out of your daily routine. And before that, I had been diligently working on a deadline to create my sacred count agenda for the 2025-2026 year, with Mexica New Year right around the corner. But more about that later. I went from being in this highly focused, creative energy to being scooped up to hold space for a wonderful group of women. It's during times like these that I find myself really stepping into the witness. Your essence is there, but the you is really taking the back seat and allowing spirit to take the reins. I continue to feel in awe of Creator and the infinite possibilities that surround us. It has been a privilege to be able to suspend my life for a week and create liminal space for transformation. It has also brought up some reflection points as a facilitator and the energetic demands this work requires. I'm so grateful for my body, my stamina, and all the support I've received. This retreat is as much medicine for me as it is for the women that come. Even with challenges come growth. And again, I was in awe of the powerful women that invested in themselves to do the work. All different walks of life, some in the tradition, and many just searching for a starting point. I think everyone found what they were looking for and more. And there's been so much movement, both within me and around me. And I've been feeling just immensely grateful and reassured by the wonderful community and family that surrounds me. I hope that you're feeling the same way. It is when times begin to darken that we can turn to community and feel truly held. And maybe it's because we're in the middle of a nosomatli or a monkey trecena, but community, family, and love have been on my heart and mind. I know that for some of you, the concept of community may seem foreign, and it's important always, but especially now that we take some time and and connect. Nowadays it's become so easy to cancel plans and postpone and just to avoid mild discomfort, or if you're a bit like me, that week before your moon time, I'm not the most social person, but I had an opportunity this week, for example. I could have stayed home and stayed in, but I decided to go out into community and visit friends, make new friends, and just be connected with people. And once I was out the door, I felt good about my choices and felt even better once I got to see all those beautiful familiar faces, and I just felt so held and not alone. And even if you go into spaces where you don't quite know anyone, there is still medicine in that. And you can almost think about it as all the potentials of friends and people that you could meet. And I'm not a particularly social person, but I will initiate a conversation. And so, let that bravery, let that confidence of this full moon that we're currently basking in help raise your spirits and initiate some of these conversations and be bold and get to know each other. We all have a lot more in common than we think. And, exchange that kind word. If you see something that is inspiring or beautiful, let people know, and whether they accept it or not, remember it's not personal, but I think that we need more connection, so take that moment to pass on that compliment or, ask the question that you want to ask. You'd be surprised how open and receptive people are. And, get to know your community. Let's say that your only contact is, the person at CVS or the postman or whomever it may be. Those are individuals and people. And I think we could all do with a little bit more feeling of familial and connection, even with strangers. And even if you don't particularly agree with things, it's we need to just remind each other of our humanness. But I digress. Returning home has been restless, a bit restless, due to the world we are currently living in with the deportations and the rapidly changing laws and, having to pay attention, but also trying to stay calm and keeping our nervous systems regulated. It definitely feels like we're juggling a lot of things right now. And the show must go on, as they say. At least that is what it can feel like. So yeah, returning home has been a bit restless. To be swept from paradise, highs and lows included, to the discord of masses that directly affect my community and loved ones is a blow to the spirit. I told the women at the retreat that the real work would begin when we got back home. And yes, it's here, but this is the good work, the work that is deeply impactful, that transforms our lives personally and whose transformations ripple outwards to community. It's time to share more of the human spirit. I'm not interested in fighting or wasting my words on ears that will not listen, but I am interested in loving and showing you that even if you did not receive the love you deserved before, you can still receive it now. That is for all people and the earth. But what do we do when we have lost our will? When the little warrior in our chest is hurt and grieving? I like to turn to the strength of my ancestors when I am unsure and I need some love. When times are dark, I light a candle at my altar. And if you don't have an altar, maybe now is the time and now is the sign that you needed. Create your altar, find a surface, find a corner. If you're not in a safe environment where you can have an altar at home, create an altar outside, in the garden, in nature, on your favorite hike, wherever it may be. There is a space and a place for you to commune with spirit. And I know that you're so respectful and thoughtful and you want to make sure that you're doing it right and all of those beautiful things. But your altar is your own unique connection to spirit. And, while there are those that will tell you that there is a specific set of guidelines and rules, those guidelines are great. They can help you create a beautiful altar that is, you don't need all those things. Even if you don't have an altar, you can't finding that corner and just you knowing it could be that house plant and that's where you go, then that is the space. But it's sad that we have to say this, but there are some people that don't feel safe in being able to express their spirituality. But something like I said that I find helpful is to light a candle at my altar and let the light of the flame also illuminate the darkness. When I don't know what to pray for, I ask for clarity and grace. I'll also light the salmerio and let the copal fill the space. Come what may come, I acknowledge the emotions that emerge in that time and give myself that love, the apapacho, that I rub my heart gently, give it some love, just remind myself that now we've got this. You've already been through so many things and you're here, and you can get yourself through anything. And m- most of all, that you are not alone. Our ancestors have pushed and fought for generations to get to you. Isn't that amazing? If they could do it, so can you. Remember that you don't need to define yourself, your life, or meet some criteria of perfection you somehow boxed yourself into. Liberate yourself from the weight of that. Your ancestors are not sitting behind you wondering why you aren't a doctor yet. No, they're looking at you. They're looking at how they can best assist you in liberating yourself from long held patterns that they may have struggled with themselves. All of humanity has the ancestors stepping in right now. Tap into your ancestors, even if you don't know where they are from. The candle will show them and you the way back. Focus on what you can do in your life, even if it means just taking care of the basics. There will come a time where you will be able to pass it on. If you need help, ask for it, accept it, and remember, hoy por ti, mañana por mí. Translate that is today for you, tomorrow for me. The world outside has been shifting between chaos, divinity, and density. It's easy to feel like we are being pulled in a million directions. Maybe you're feeling this too. Maybe you've been asking yourself, how can I help? Another thing that helps me is my work. Not just any work, but life's work. I love creating, teaching, offering my art, even when it feels overwhelming. Even when the deadlines loom, I remember this is what I'm meant to do.